It is wrong, unfair and misleading to suggest China wants to take over Ghana's digital space. That's according to Chinese Ambassador Shi Ting-wang, hitting hard at critics suggesting that the deal will place media content under the control of the Chinese. In the past few weeks, there have been several concerns raised by civil society groups, arguing the agreement is part of a broader neo-colonial agenda by China in Africa. Kofi Bentil is Vice President of Imani Africa.
The Chinese don't negotiate with their heart, they negotiate with their heads, and they go strictly for what they want, regardless of the cost to you. The next thing you need to know is that know exactly what you have to give, because they will play all kinds of games, and if you are not sure what you have to give, you are going to end up giving them everything and you don't even realize it. The next thing you need to know is that when you are down, the Chinese will not have mercy on you. They don't have debt forgiveness in their arrangements. So you need to know that you are responsible for hedging against the worst case scenario.
Well, they've not spoken. Star Times Ghana, that's what I'm talking about. We will be talking to them briefly. But it was a heated clash of opinions at a dialogue on digital migration organized by Imani Africa today. Member of Parliament's Communications Committee, Sam George, has been accusing government of misleading Parliament to grant a $3 million tax waiver to Chinese TV operator Star Times. The Ningo Prampram MP believes the waiver is in excess of the cost of equipment to be imported by the company, raising questions about whether or not Parliament Finance Committee had an appreciation of what it approved at the time. Parliament earlier in the year granted the waiver that will see 300 villages receive satellites for free. But the Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association is concerned, citing unequal playing field for its members. We will hear from GIBA President, but here is Ningo Prampram MP Sam George.
The solar-powered projectors, they go for around $600 on Amazon. But let's even peg them at $1,000 because maybe they are bringing in high-spec powered, solar-powered projectors. And they're giving two to each of these viewing centers. So each one is going to cost $2,000. Each center will be $2,000 times 300 centers. That's $600,000 US dollars. 150,000, 120,000. That's what, 270,000 plus 600,000, 870,000 plus 6,000, 876,000. It's less than $1 million. Even if you add freight, the cost of equipment for the 300 villages is less than $1 million. But we're giving them a tax waiver, which should be about 15 to 20% on the cost of the items, because that is actually what a tax waiver is. We're giving them $3 million. So are we thinking as a government? Are we thinking as a people? Are we not occasioning financial loss this day? Because a tax waiver is effectively taxpayers' money that you're giving to the recipient of a tax waiver.
Sam George, the Member of Parliament for Ningo Prampram. Well, the Chinese ambassador to Ghana, Shi Ting-wang, disagrees with this position. He's saying that they are rather working towards improving the living condition of Ghanaians.
This program is just for the local people to access the satellite TV program. This program is an international program. Ghanaian local program is set for free. It's nothing to do with the control of the media, of the media organization. No, the people deliberately misleading the two projects. This is totally wrong. This is unfair. They are deliberately misleading information. When we talk in China-Africa history, it's always friendship, and support. You can recall that China will never colonize an inch in this continent. And China, even though back to 50 years ago, at that time then China, we were poor. But we would like to give what we have for the African countries.
That is the Chinese ambassador to Ghana. Let's speak to Felix Ahunzo. He's the Chief Operations Officer of Star Times Ghana. He joins me on the line. Sir, thank you so much for your time this evening here on Top Story. Let me start by asking you what exactly you've been tasked to do by the Communications Ministry.
Good evening, Divine. Good evening to all your service listeners. Let's quickly do a correction. We have not been instructed to do anything by the Ministry of Communication. We are Star Times Ghana, and we have been mandated to carry out the operation of bringing decoders to 300 villages as per the Chinese promise to the African countries, as part of the 10,000 villages project that has been launched in 2015 by the Chinese government.
Okay, so how many boxes or how many distributions have you done so far?
Okay, so far we've done just 5 pilots. We are completing the survey that is identifying the various beneficiaries nationwide. And then from the next 2 weeks, we will start the actual implementation of fixing the boxes and the dishes in the various homes.
Okay, we'll get a bit more into that later on. But you said that you've not been instructed, and this is your word, you've not been instructed by the Communication Ministry. That was actually not the question, not whether or not you've been instructed. I wanted to find out what the extent of your work is. Have you signed a contract with government?
Now, StarTimes has been mandated to carry out an activity. StarTimes Ghana has been mandated to carry out an activity. And we have 300 villages that have been approved by or agreed by the members of parliament together with the Ministry of Communication, handed over to us. And our mandate is to locate those villages, identify the beneficiaries, and proceed with fixing the decoders and dishes as agreed. We are also, in addition to that one, identifying 900 service centers in these 300 villages, and then to provide them with projected TV and TV sets powered by solar panels.
Okay, so let me understand this properly, sir, and hopefully for my listeners as well. You're saying that you have, first of all, you've not answered the question about the contract, whether or not you have a contract with government, do you?
You see, you need to understand.
I'm just building my. I'm just trying to understand what you said so far, because you've listed a couple of things that you're supposed to do. You say that you say that as part of the 10,000 village project, you have already started 5 pilots, and you say that you are targeting 900. You're targeting putting together 900 service centers that you're going to equip with television set. Is this correct?
Yes.
Okay, and I want to find out, whilst you're doing all of these, is this based on a contract you have with Government of Ghana?
Our contract is from the agreement that has been signed between the Government of Ghana and the Government of China.
Can you say that again? I didn't quite get that.
I'm saying that our contract or our mandate emanates from the agreement that has been signed between the Government of Ghana and the Government of China for the implementation of the 300 village project in Ghana.
Okay, and as part of this contract, you are doing you're targeting the 300 villages. You've started with 5 pilots already. So, what does this 5 pilots mean exactly?
Well, the 5 pilots was to better understand the processes in each village, understand the dynamics in the villages that we'll be visiting. And now that has been completed, that's what today we're able to do the launch effectively. Now that we have a good grasp of what the challenges are and what we need to put in place to ensure that we do that quickly, now we are doing they are rolling out of the project nationwide. Okay.
So, out of this 5 pilots, do you have a specific number of villages under this 5 pilots projects that you mentioned?
No, the pilots were actually, we selected 5 different communities in 5 different locations.
Okay.
And so, for example, we had the one we did at Akwebu here, somewhere around Ansuma. We had another project in the central and western region. We have a project also in the eastern region. And so that we decided to go in different regions just to understand the dynamics and the challenges that we'll be facing rolling out this project.
Okay.
But now we are well aware of what is expected of us, and so the project is going ahead.
So in these 300 villages, each of them will receive what? How many service centers that has TV sets?
In each village or in community that we go, we'll be giving 20 decoders to selected homes. Selected homes will have a decoder dish and all installed for free and 6 months subscription. Then in the same community, we'll be identifying a public viewing place. It could be, say, a hospital or a school where we will give them a TV powered by a solar panel. Then we'll also identify public viewing places. It will be a community center where we'll fix in there a projector TV together with a solar panel to power those ones. And so two projector TV in each community plus a television in addition to the 20 decoders for the homes.
Okay.
So that's what we do in each village.
Okay. It looks like a lot of information that's actually required to understand this process. But 6 months subscription, after that, people have to pay, correct?
Yes. After the 6 month permission, the homes will have to pay. However, the community centers and the public viewing places will have subscription at perpetuity.
Okay. And how much are they paying?
Subscription rate from 15 for the home. For the homes, again, for the home, subscription rate from 15 to 60 Ghana cedis, depending on what the customer wants to watch.
15 to 60 Ghana cedis.
15 cedis, 30 cedis, and 60 Ghana cedis.
Okay, let's come to the concerns that have been raised by Giba so far over this contract. They are saying that this gives you unfair advantage over them. How do you respond to that?
Well, we do not consider this to be an unfair advantage because we know that in Ghana, other companies have also done similar activities, reaching out to schools, giving them school packages, reaching out to communities, giving them free decoders and free viewing. In the past, other companies have done it. The magnitude to which we are doing it may suggest that we are getting the magnitude ours is a bit different. We are doing on a much more larger scale. Other people decided to do it on a piecemeal year by year, but we're doing it on a massive, on a bigger scale in a year. And so that's the difference. Otherwise, it's the same activities that other people have done that we are doing same, but only that our scale is much more higher. It is not an unfair advantage in this matter.
Well, let me find out from you as well. How many of your boxes are in the system already?
How many of our boxes?
Yes. How many of stock are in the system already?
Well, I can say that currently we have over 127,000 subscribers already of StarTime in Ghana. And so the number of boxes could be a lot more than this one. But these are customers who are already enjoying the quantity, the quality program that we have on StarTime.
So you're not sure of the figure? I mean, this is a business you're running here. You're not sure of the figure?
Well, I do not have to give you the exact figure. I'm giving you a rounded figure. I'm giving you an approximation. I'm saying to you that we have about 127,000 subscribers currently in Ghana.
Very well. Which equipment did you bring into the country to execute this project?
Your question again, please.
Which equipment did you bring into the country to execute this project? And I'm asking this based on the concerns raised by a member of parliament for Ningo Pram Pram, who says that the tax waivers you've received are not justified.
Now, we set out to give decoders, TVs, and projectors together with solar panels and inventors, to the communities. That's exactly what we'll be bringing. And so these are the items that were brought: televisions, decoders, solar panels, dishes that we will be giving out for free to customers.
What is the cost involved in all of these? How much are we looking at here?
I'm unable to give you the exactly, but I know that it's the total cost of these items should be well over $3 million.
It should be well over $3 million?
Yes.
Okay. I'm wondering how you'd respond to the Member of Parliament then, who's also a member on the Communications Committee, with his concerns that you're receiving way more than you're entitled to.
I don't know who determines what we are entitled to.
He says you have to get between 15 to 20% of the cost of whatever it is that you're importing.
Listen, we don't make these items were brought for the purpose of being given out to customers for free. None of it is being made available for sale to any customer. Now, do not forget that we are already in business in Ghana, and we do have decoders that have been imported for the purposes of business. And all those decoders will have all the duties and charges and everything that we have to pay, just like any business has to do, we do them. And so for this project, it's a completely different consignment. And as to whether we are getting more than we ought to, we do not determine that one.
Okay.
The Parliament of Ghana sat on it and approved whatever have been brought in to be given out for free.
Well, Mr. Ahonsah, hold on for me. Let me bring in the Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram, who's also on the Communications Committee in Parliament. Mr. George, thank you very much for your time this evening here on Top Story. You have explained, you did some calculation of how much they're supposed to take, how much they were entitled to, they were supposed to be entitled to based on whatever the cost of what they imported. He's explaining that they don't determine that. Parliament gave them the waiver.
Well, let me say a very good evening to your listeners, and I'm grateful that finally Star Times has found a voice to speak. It's interesting that when you asked him, he's added some new items to the whole list that we've been talking about. He's talking about solar panels and batteries, inverter batteries. Well, let me inform him that the government of Ghana has already taken off all taxes and duties on solar panels. That is existing law already. There's a waiver on solar panels because government is trying to incentivize through the Energy Commission the importation of people converting to renewable energy. So already there is no duty on solar panels.
Okay.
So that cannot be added to the permutation. Now he also tells you, when you ask him how much is the total cost of items he's bringing in, he tells you it is well over $3 million. The tax waiver they are getting is $3 million. So is the tax waiver supposed to cover the entire cost of the product items? Tax waivers are to be covering just the duty, excise duty that you pay on it. And excise duty on these items will range from between 15% to 25%. So to receive a tax waiver of $3 million, if we are talking about that, if $3 million is representing 25%, it then means that the entirety of the cost of the items should be in the region of $12 million. Again, let us not throw dust in the eyes of our listeners. When you spoke to the country rep for Star Times, he made it clear that they're bringing in 6,000 set-top boxes and dishes, which are going to be given to 20 households in each of the 300 communities. He also makes the claim that they are entitled to this tax waiver because they are bringing these items in not for sale. That is not true. They are giving the 6,000 households the decoders and dishes free for only 6 months, after which they will start charging. So those are not free.
But there is a component of freebies where they say they're setting up. This is Gifty. They're setting up. They're setting up community public viewing spaces in these villages as well. Those he says are free.
Don't mix the things up. Don't get confused. And
I'm not confused at all, Mr. George. Go ahead with your point.
Let our listeners not get confused. I'm saying that if they on the viewing centers, they've made the point that the connectivity on the viewing centers is free for life. So if government is giving a waiver on that, fair.
Okay.
Even that the waiver must be between 15 to 25% on the cost of those items.
Okay.
But when Star Times then hides to do market penetration by saying that we are bringing in items for viewing centers for free for life, then they also bring in 6,000 decoders or set-top boxes and dishes, and are also claiming free tax waivers on those, when those items are going to be put in homes for for people to pay after 6 months. In that case, then government must also give Multi-TV the same waiver, so that Multi-TV will also sell their set-top boxes. You go and pick your set-top box for free for 6 months. After 6 months, you start paying. That is the argument that I'm making. That if you are doing this for a Chinese company, then a Ghanaian company that has done this for 10 years already in the industry is entitled to enjoy even more. Because look, the Chinese government says that if they are going to give us a loan, it must be a Chinese company because the money is China money. If we are using Ghanaian taxpayers' money, which is a tax waiver effectively, tax waivers are Ghanaian taxpayers' money, why should a Chinese company enjoy it and not a Ghanaian company? These are the fundamental questions we are asking. I listened to the insert you played of the Chinese ambassador, and he says it's unfair. What is unfair is China holding Ghana hostage, and China determining that a different agreement, which predates another agreement, that the Eastern Corridor loan predates the StarTimes agreement. The Eastern Corridor loan was contracted by Prof. Samuels without any condition precedent on StarTimes.
Mr. George, end your point for me.
Yes, China now insisting that unless we approve a loan for StarTimes and the DTT expansion infrastructure, before Ghana can access any other loans from China, is what is unfair. And I expect, but I'm not surprised. I mean, it is fair for the Chinese ambassador to be fighting for Chinese interests. The sad situation here is your Ghanaian officials who should be fighting for Ghanaian interests do not appear to be doing so.
Okay. Mr. Ahunzo, you've heard the Member of Parliament and the concerns that he's raised over the figures that you've mentioned and over whether or not the extent to which this provision that you're making for the villages is free. How do you respond?
Okay, I think that the Honourable Member of Parliament will need to decouple issues. Number one, when it comes to determining how much waivers we get on the items that are brought in, one, it's not determined by StarTimes. These waivers were granted by the consent of government.
That's a point you've made already, Mr. Ahunzo. That's a point you've made already. I'd like for you to respond so that we can wrap up this conversation.
Let me make this point. Number two, when he says that we give the boxes out for free and after 6 months the people will have to pay subscription, therefore the box is not free, it's completely wrong. The boxes are free.
If it's free and you still charge for subscription, that's not free, is it? Because Multi-TV, for example, is free. Once you buy it, you don't pay any subscription fees.
Yes, well, once something is given for free, it means that it's been given to you without any financial demand on you.
But that's what you're doing. You're charging people. You're going to charge people after 6 months.
No, this is a different service. This is a content supply. It's a content provision. The box is free, but the content that you're going to have over a period of time is not always going to be free.
Okay, so your final point for me, sir.
Exactly. And so we need to decouple the box from the content, because the content is a different thing altogether.
Okay.
We need to put money to provide the content.
All right.
We're saying that the content that we have provided for 6 months, we have absorbed the cost for the next 6 months. However, going forward, you will have to contribute something to work it. This is different. Again, when we say that the person pays the content, you and I know that when you provide content, there is always going to be a tax element which has to be paid. And
okay.
So that is what it is. So let's decouple the box. The box indeed is free, but the content that we are providing for the period of the 6 months that we are giving will remain free. Thereafter, that whoever is enjoying will be asked to contribute to the entertainment that is getting in his house. I mean, that's the point we're making.
Well, gentlemen, unfortunately, this is all time will allow us. We will keep this conversation going, and we'll reach out to you once we do. Thank you so much for your time here on Top Story. Felix Ahunzo is the Chief Operations Officer of StarTimes Ghana, and also we had on the line Sam George, who is a Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Pram, also a member of the Communications Committee. Well, GIBA has plans. Its President Andrew Danso Ahinkra says dragging government to court over the tax waiver granted StarTimes remains an option.
What we are saying is it is not a one-time thing. Definitely when you talk about development, it's an ongoing thing. Whatever the StarTimes group has been able to do can be brought to a halt, and then the local component would be used to continue with the project. We are hoping that we'll be able to arrive at some particular kind of a decision to be able to go forward with our discussions.
Finally, you are being advised that to consider the option of legal action if you feel that unfair advantage is being created. Is it something that's on the table?
It has always been considered. It will not be for the first time that we are going into a legal tussle probably with any ministry or any decision that had been taken which is wrong. We've been in court with the National Media Commission, we've been in court with the NCA. If this is the time for us to go to court with the Ministry of Communication, we can consider that as well.
Although the Ministry of Communication also has a response, Esla Owusu, who is the minister, says the ministry consulted members of parliament and district chief executives in the selection of the communities for the projects. Let's listen.
Were selected in conjunction with members of parliament, including the communications and finance committees in parliament, municipal and district chiefs executives. All of them were part of the selection of the communities. And we tried to give a diverse spread so that every region would be represented. And I think we succeeded in doing that. So there was no bias. I don't know all the communities in the country, so I couldn't have sat in my office and selected it. So we solicited assistance from all these groups and arrived at the final selection. If you look at the state in which some of our communities live, it is incumbent on all of us to work as hard as we can to make life a little bit more bearable for everybody around the country. And so we didn't just distribute these initiatives in the urban centers. This one also extends digital TV services to 300 communities which would otherwise not have had them. And I'm glad that the public viewing centers are for free in perpetuity, so that if for nothing at all within that community you can have 1, 2 or 3 centers where you can enjoy this digital content for free.
Esla Owusu is the Minister for Communications. The top story is brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans, your success, our passion. GASM, the nation builder. Vodafone, the future is exciting. Ready? A nationwide medical health insurance, your healthcare family. My name is Gifty Andopia, and guess who is here as always? Emefa Apau has more in Newsnight. Emefa, what's happening?
So tonight, National Disaster Management Organization NADMO battles internal disasters of its own as Upper West Region store supervisor is suspended over expired relief cooking items.
The regional director of NADMO, Mr. Isaac Sedu, has been given an official query demanding explanation to how the whole thing happened. The regional stores manager has been suspended pending investigation.
We have details as a steady stream of queries hits officials of the organization. And is this a snowball of an indiscretion on the part of officials? We are live in the region as National NADMO executives meet with staff over the matter. Former Deputy Works and Housing Minister fights off allegation of corruption and shoddy work in the $200 million Saglemi affordable housing project.
Has he built a house before? We should stop this kind of pettiness that they are engaging in. What does it mean by the quality is low? Has he read the West contract? Has he noticed the specification? We have done no less than 1,400 units, and the remaining 100 were at various stages.
But government says those found culpable after a thorough probe will face the law.
I am not going to allow things to go as it is now. We'll find solutions to then find out the culprits, and if we find anybody culpable, then the law will take its course, because we cannot just put down the taxpayers' money down to trade. If it's not, I don't want to conclude that it's create, loot and share, but we'll have to investigate.
President Akufo-Addo defends Ghana's newfound interest in China for growth and development, saying previous parts yielded little or no results.
It is also not lost on us that a lot of anxiety is being expressed about the possibility of a recolonization of the African continent by a new power. It is obvious to us that the development trajectory we have been on for many decades is not working. We're trying a different one.
We'll hear excerpts from the president's UN address as he assures Ghana is mindful of threats of recolonization. Also, former President Mahama courts support of NDC party faithful in Central Region as he promises a new leadership under a future NDC government.
Anyoma ayedri, anyoma enye easy. And so Nyamiadom NDC esaba ombehu abam